according to the directions, gray wire is ground and white is hot. So, we're going to be soldering... Oh, it looks like Whisker's tinning first.
There we go.
Okay. And that's done. Are you going to fasten them down, like tape them or anything like that?
Yep. Don't want anything rattling in here.
Okay.
Little details like this make all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere where we can avoid vibrations that we don't want, it's good.
Tailpiece time.
Yeah.
So there's a tailpiece, and Whisker's going to mark where the holes are so that we can put pilot holes in them.
We make the tail pieces out of angle aluminum.
Correct.
Everybody keeps asking us if we'll sell them.
We probably could, but it'd probably be just as easy for you to make your own.
They're not very difficult.
They're not
to
difficult
make.
at all. I mean, they're what?
Alright, so last time I did one of these I added a little frowny face.
So are you doing a smiley face now?
No. We'll do another frowny face because I know what's about to happen to him.
Oh.
So here's our first look at basically the fully assembled guitar.
Lady Omar. Bam.
Okay, so now that we have the tuners done and the tailpiece done, it's time to mark out where the frets are all going to go.
Yep.
Now what's important to note here is that this is a 23-inch scale. So that's the distance between this side of the nut and this side of the bridge.
Okay.
Halfway between those 2 points, you divide the string in half.
Okay.
And that gives you your, center fret.
Okay.
Okay. And you can continue doing math that way, breaking it in halves or whatever. But the easy way to do this, no matter what scale length you're using, is to just go online and find a fret calculator.
Okay.
And for me, I plug in 23 inches into a fret calculator and it tells me the offsets from the top to each fret.
Okay.
So what I did is I took a little piece of plastic here, made it the same size as my neck, sanded it up a little bit to give it a texture, and then measured out the offset to each fret.
Okay.
Then drilled a little tiny hole in my plastic.
Okay.
And then I can use a pencil to just poke through that little hole and mark where each one of the frets are.
Okay.
Now, to make it so that I don't need to worry about being square, what I can do with this is I mark them all on this side, then I flip this template over and clamp it down with the dots running down the other side and mark them over there as well.
Okay.
And that gives me correct offsets on both sides so that they end up being square.
Sounds good.
So I'm just going to go through and mark these. Okay, so I'm getting ready to draw the line for the first fret here, and what I have is a nice straight ruler and a clamp here in place, and I've got the dot on that side and the dot on that side, and I want to put this ruler so that the dots get cut in half. And then I know exactly where my line is going to be. Then I can go in and mark that. One down, a whole bunch to go. Okay, so I got all the frets marked out. A little hard to see unless you get the reflection just right.
Mm-hmm.
You can see they get closer and closer together as they go towards the center, farther and farther apart as they go out to the nut. What we have here is a little tiny table saw for scale. There's the giant
table saw.
Giant whisker hand.
Tiny table saw.
Now the blade on this is a little springy. So in order to stiffen it up a little bit, I made a special sled, but we also bolted it down to this piece of scrap wood with a catch on the end of the table, so as we push into the saw can't move. Alright, and here's the custom sled I made. So basically what the idea here is that you take your neck piece, here's a blank piece that I've made a cut through, you drop it into this, the slot here, and then you can run it right over the top of that blade, and it keeps it square, keeps it running straight along. It took a couple hours of work, but I think it's going to be totally worth it. It makes it a lot easier to make sure that all of these frets are perfectly square and perfectly straight. We took a couple of tuners off so we can fit it in the sled here, and what I did was on the bottom of the sled we've got that hole, and I just slid the neck so that I could see the fret line that I drew. Now we know that that's all set up. I make sure that the neck is down securely. We're going to put it on our table saw here, and we'll do the cut.
And this is our first time doing this, so...
Well, we've never done frets before, and this is what we came up with for a way of doing it.
Heck yeah!
Nice and thin. And when we squeeze the frets in there, they'll stay real good.
Yep.
Real good.
Real good.
Yep.
Awesome.
Real good.
So we're gonna keep...
Gotta cut a lot of these, so we're not gonna bore you guys with every single cut, but we gotta get through lots and lots and lots.
Yep. We'll be back after we do all of them. So Whisker, how proud do you feel?
I'll feel a lot more proud when these all have metal frets inside of them.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the cuts.
Pretty nice.
They're pretty nice.
Not bad for not having a fret saw.
Yep. What's the difference with a fret saw and...
You'd be doing it by hand. It's a lot easier to be careful when you're doing it by hand.
Well...
Using a power tool, you're sort of dealing with its quirks and stuff, so...
I suppose.
This probably isn't the ideal way.
I suppose, but it worked.
It did.
Huzzah!
Okay, we got the fret started. I'm going to try to squeeze it down into its slot there.
So there is some overhang.
Yep, which is what you want.
Yep. What do we do next?
Well, I do more of these, and then we're going to dress it, but I'm going to show you guys how to dress it. Okay, so now we need to obviously trim these frets back right to the wood. We can't have any sharp edges. We don't want people to get cut. So we got to get it right up to the wood, and then we're going to put a slight angle on it too. We're going to bevel out the edge of the fret.
Okay. Very nice.
That gives you an idea of what you're trying to go for. I can't feel it when I go across. And of course we'll be going in and doing some finer hand stuff, sanding and whatnot, as we get these frets all level and such. But this is the basic idea for how to get them right up to the thing. So we get all the frets in place. Took a while. And for these, because of the overhang, I had to actually use the hammer and block style. You just put a piece of wood on it. You tap it in with a hammer. That works fine. And then I went over them with some sand foam here, just to take off the rough edges. And now I don't know if you can see, but there's these little tiny T-shaped pieces here. So I'm just going over them with the needle file just to work those off so there's no sharp edges left at all. Okay, I got all of the frets. Those T-shapes are all smoothed out. You can't even really feel the frets from the side. No more than you could on a store-bought guitar. And next up, I'm going to level the frets. I took a piece of paper, piece of scrap wood here, and some spray adhesive to affix sandpaper to the bottom of it. Now the idea here is that I'm going to go back and forth over the top of these frets until all of them are exactly the same height, and I'll be using the straight edge of this to help me do that and to check it, like so. I've been sanding all of the frets nice and level. We'll set the straight edge up there. You can see they're all nice and level. Okay, so when you level the frets, some of them are going to get sanded down a little bit more than others, and you can tell which ones because they'll have flat edges on the top, and those flat edges are wider than the other frets. So what I'm going to do next is use my little needle file and go back in and round these frets back out. Okay, I've got the frets rounded back over, and they've got a smaller peak, so the string is going to be right on and it's not going to buzz and stuff. So now what I need to do is polish these frets back up after doing all this work, and what I'm going to use is 000 steel wool. This will also polish up underneath on the fretboard. Okay, I went ahead and polished up all of the frets. As you can see, it brought the shine right back on the fretboard. Nice and shiny now. And I put the tuners all back in. So those are all ready to go. We got the nut in place. And I put the tailpiece on and put it back in the box. So next up, we're going to have to work on the bridge. And then we can put strings on it. How exciting is that?
Oh, what's that? What's that? I see strings.
Well, temporary strings.
Temporary strings. These will not be the strings that are going to end up on the Omar guitar, but dun, 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 look at that epic bridge.
Temporary bridge.
True craftsmanship.
So the next step here that we're working on right now is figuring out the exact height of the bridge.
Yep.
So that the action on the string is perfect.
Action is the distance from that the string has to go to reach the fretboard.
So we're a tiny bit high here. We can be a bit faster, but this also allows us to do one other test.
What's that?
To check and see if we did the frets right.
Whoa, moment of truth.
Yep.
Sweet. You know, you always hope that the calculations that the online places give you actually works. We're super glad that it worked this time. Alright, so bridge finesse is next.
Everything looks right. We're at 23 inches here, so we know about where this needs to stand. It can be a little tiny bit shorter because I'd like the action to be just a little bit lower, and I can start working on coming up with a design for a real bridge to go in here.
Okay.
And I haven't glued the neck in place yet because I want to test the pickup before we make it so that we can't change anything. So I'm going to try to tune this up and plug it in.
Awesome.